Hey guys, it's Joseph. I wanted to do a video today on finding your person. I want to give you guys some red flags, pitfalls, things to avoid when you're in the market, if you're single or whatever it might be, if you're trying to find that special person for your life, the way that I will be in the near future or am currently, because I'm single now. I want to just give you guys a couple of tidbits, a little bit of advice on what to do, what not to do, mistakes I've made, mistakes you've probably made, things that you can do to help yourself try to find the right person in your life. With that said, coming up, Journeys with Joseph, finding the right person. All right, guys, thank you for checking in with this video. If you like this channel, subscribe. It should be right down there or right down there. I forget which side it is at this point. Either way, Journeys with Joseph, thank you for joining me today. I want to give you guys just a little bit of advice on finding the right person, or as the title of this video goes, finding your person. So in my life, I've experienced a lot of hardship. Early on when I met my ex-wife, we basically jumped right into a relationship because we had a few very compatible things in common, and we failed to really go through the work of getting to know each other the right way to identify different things that we might be struggling with down the road in our marriage. Not to say that we didn't have a long, great run, because we did. I was married for 22 years, had an incredible person most of the time, where when we were raising our family, we were so focused on our kids and just our life that it was able to work. We made it work and we got along great. We had a great friendship and a great relationship. We were really like sort of business partners that really loved each other, and we still do. But with that said, there were certain things when we jumped into that relationship so quickly that definitely caused problems way on down the road in our relationship. So things that you can avoid. Number one, when you have a physical attraction to somebody, or maybe you get along and you see certain things that may be compatible, a lot of people have the tendency to just dive right in. I mean, they just go right in full bore. They fall in love. They start having intimacy. There's all these things that they get involved with because they think they see certain characteristics in a person that seem very desirable. And so you instantly just attach yourself to this person. And next thing you know, you're in a full-on relationship. And before your heart can say no, you've already just totally attached yourself to that person. So when you start to see possibly red flags or certain things that are like really questionable about that person or that relationship, or things that may not be compatible for you and that other person, it's too late. Your heart's already there. You're already all in, and you end up in this relationship that goes on for however long. And next thing you know, you find yourself running into problems and all kinds of things that may be very, very, very difficult for you to struggle with down the road. So number one, don't just dive in. Don't just dive in. When you think about things like buying a house or buying a car, other major purchases for your life, things like that, guys, they do extensive research on you and on your credit history, your financial background, what employment you have, how much income do you have, how many years have you been working for this job or in this field. They go all out to make sure that you have very low risk on your ability or inability to make your payments on time, whether it's for your car, your mortgage, or whatever it might be. If you're going to do a financial transaction and the institution that you're going to be involving yourself with is going to do that much work to make sure you are low risk, high reward, and that you're going to be able to pay your bills on time throughout the entirety of your loan, why would you not think that it would be even more important to invest that kind of time and energy into truly getting to know the person that you're going to involve yourself with long term, right? So some people might say, well, if you're going to go buy a car, you're going to take it for a test ride, right? You're going to take it for a test run. And while that sounds great on paper, what people refer to when they say that is they want to sleep with that person to see if there's physical compatibility, right? Most people are not talking about, hey, let's date for a while. Let's get to know that person. Let's see if the engine runs good, if the lights turn on, and all these other things are working properly. Let's see if all the things with the house, its foundation, most importantly, is solid. If the roof needs to be replaced, if your air conditioner and HVAC system is going to wear out soon, whatever it might be, when you're going to buy a house or a car, you always do the work up front and make sure that you've done a full inspection on every aspect of this property. And they've also done one for you to make sure that you're going to be able to pay that back. Well, same goes for your partner. If you're going to take a test drive and you're going to spend, several weeks looking at a house and making sure that it's got all the things that you need it to have before you decide to eventually move in and make that purchase, right? This is not about sex or sleeping with somebody, okay? This is about doing a full checkup on the person you're with and getting to know who they are as an individual, getting to know the kind of person, the value systems they have, the ways that they want to raise their kids, what kind of financial practices do they have? Do they have a lot of debt? There's all these things that you need to be looking for when you're finding your person, guys. Things that you need to invest yourself into looking at. I highly recommend, and this is going to be my point too, in doing literally a financial credit check on somebody for each other. Not that you're like, trying to spy on their life, but if you're going to start dating somebody at some point sooner than later in the process, you absolutely should be looking at their finances. How do they spend their money? What does their history look like? And look, it doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, everybody has a history, especially if you're older and you've had some baggage because you've had broken relationships or a relationship or whatever it might be. But there should be a story behind every single thing that's on that credit check that's going to tell you, why did that happen? How long ago was it? What was the story there, right? So if you're going to invest your future finances with somebody and you're going to create goals and vision and dreams and build this new little empire with somebody, you absolutely should know about their finances, how they spend their money, and what they do with all of their resources, okay? So check their finances. That is a huge part of a relationship, and it's a major part of why people end up getting divorced or having all kinds of problems, which could be symptomatic of why they get divorced or one of the many reasons, right? So do some financial background. On top of the financial background, also make sure that you're in agreement with somebody on how you want to do your budget, how you want to do your bank account. Are we gonna combine incomes, which I highly recommend for most people. If you're truly gonna have a strong marriage, you should not be able to or you should not have to have trust issues with that person where you feel like, nope, what's mine is mine, what's yours is yours, and we're going to keep things separate because I don't trust this other person because of my broken past relationship or whatever happened there before. If you have those kinds of trust issues, you should not be getting involved in a long-term relationship. I mean, maybe for you that works if that's all you want. If you just want an unrisky side relationship with somebody and you still got your own stuff and they got theirs, okay, that's fine if that's what you truly want. But guys, I'm telling you, that's going to leave you empty. If you're interested in wanting to have a long-term, lifelong partnership with somebody to achieve goals together and all those things, you should be merging everything together, all right? And that means that you should be understanding upfront what they're going to be doing with their money, their finances, and so on and so forth. Okay, that's the financial side of things. The emotional side of things, or I should say things like life goals and dreams. Point number 3, make sure that you guys have done the work to talk about what you want in your life. Where are you going? Obviously, as you date somebody, you're going to get to know the personality, how they talk, the communication style they have, things like that. But you really need to understand fully as you communicate what your goals and dreams are. If you're very ambitious and outgoing and you want to achieve great things and you want to be able to have a good time and have a lot of fun and do all these things, go on road trips or whatever it might be, if these are some of your goals, or you want to be investing into properties or have all these other things you want to do in your life, make sure that this person you're talking to has at least either the desire to want those things and to support you in those things, and whatever she desires or he desires, that you support those things as well, or make sure they are on the same path as you and you're both able to bring that together and merge those goals together and those dreams and visions and all that. If you're a recluse and you don't want to go out a lot and you are a nice person, you're attractive, you get along great with this person that you're dating, but they have very different objectives and goals in life, very different ambitions, different drive, different passions. They say opposites attract, but more often than not, actually, opposites tend to divide when it comes to things like this, very big items, okay? The Bible talks about being equally yoked, which is talking about two animals with this big yoke around their neck where they're pulling a cart or a wagon or whatever behind them. If you have different overall desires, goals, dreams, thoughts about life, morality, all these different things in your life, if you're not equal on most big things, you're going to be pulling at a different pace, and that will cause the cart to fall, or you won't be able to go as fast or as efficient as you'd like to with that pulling of the wagon or the cart, but whatever you have, the load behind you, right? So that idea is what the Bible talks about, and in life that's true in general. You should have very compatible, similar interests, goals, dreams, vision, things like that, so you can basically pull at the same pace with your partner, that not only are the two animals very similar in size, but the yokes that they're carrying are very similar in size as well. That's their beliefs, their morals, their objectives, all those things. So you definitely need to have Goal-oriented compatibility with your partner. Make sure you understand fully what they want in their life, where they're going. And if those things aren't aligned, it's going to cause you lots of problems. Family, number 4. I think I'm on number 4. Family. How are you going to raise your kids, right? If you both already have kids and you're mixing them together and depending on their ages and so forth, what kind of relationship does your spouse or the potential future spouse, what are they going to expect you to do with their kids? Or if you have more children, how are you going to raise them? What is your style? Or, if you're going to be doing correction, things like, telling your kids, hey, you're grounded, or whatever it might be, whatever you believe about that stuff, you need to have compatibility on how you want to talk to your children and how you discipline your children and how you set goals for your kids and how you're going to work with them on their schooling or whatever it might be. If there's kids involved, you absolutely need to be on the same page about those things. Number 5, sexual and physical compatibility and chemistry. Okay, now, early on, if you start giving yourself to somebody in a physical, intimate, sexual way, that's going to do things to your heart that's going to keep your head from being able to discern the things that we've just been talking about, all the different things in a relationship that are so important for you to last long term, all right? And so if you involve yourself physically that way with somebody, you're setting yourself up for failure and for an eventual collapse of that relationship. Trust me, you would be completely lucky, like the luckiest couple on earth, to get yourself involved physically and romantically with somebody early on and to expect that to last long term once all the little red flags and other things come out if you haven't worked through those things and talked through those things, okay? So by the time you are ready for intimacy and physical compatibility with somebody, you should be already fully aware of the type of person you're dating. And you should have spent plenty of time doing the homework, doing the home inspection, getting all the credit checks and the background worked out with who this person is, just like a house and a car. You should be doing all the things that you need to do in order to make sure that all of those items and areas are worked out. Highly recommend counseling, maintenance counseling, things like that, premarital counseling, even if you're not even talking about marriage yet. Just going to somebody who's an expert, who has also a similar grounding as far as a faith value system or whatever as you, and using that to give yourselves a good grounding for whether or not this relationship has a very high likelihood of succeeding in the future, okay? So, but when you get to that point, when you've been dating somebody for a while, you've done all the homework, you've done the background, you really like this person, you've been, really just investing the time and the resources into really truly getting to know if this is the person you think that's for you, and all the other boxes have been checked off. You also have a strong attraction to this person, which is very important to long-term success. When you have physical attraction to somebody and chemistry, and you have very similar sexual compatibility with what you both want, and again, those should be talked out and discussed, especially with an expert counselor who knows what they're talking about. If you do have that chemistry, and at some point down the road, after engagement and for marriage and things like that, you guys decide that you're going to obviously begin having sex and things like that. If you're at that point, once your relationship develops there and you begin to give yourself that way to that person, okay, it creates chemical, neurological bonds and strings that attach, literally neurological little strings that tie together in your mind that forms these bonds that are basically almost unbreakable. It takes tragic circumstances, which is why a lot of divorces do happen, to break those ties, to break those bonds. Or a very long, slow process of, losing trust and breaking down the foundations of your marriage, which can also break apart those types of bonds. But in general, if all those other things in your marriage are working out mostly terrifically because you've done the work, you've done the upfront preparation, you've set a great foundation, if all those things are good long-term in your marriage, the physical, sexual, chemical bonds that are created when you are making love and when you are having sex and all those things, they create bonds that even as you get older and when you start to lose your physical attraction, because everybody gets old, when all of that starts to fade away on the surface, on the physical side of things, those chemical neurological bonds remain intact. And that desire and longing and love that's developed for your partner stays with you both. And you start to begin having physical and emotional attraction for that person over years and years and years that aren't just strictly sexual or physical in nature, but that go far beyond that and cause you to never want to be without that person. So, but in the beginning stages, if you are just like getting into this relationship because you're like, oh, they're cute, but I really am super strongly attracted to their personality or whatever else, but you don't have a strong chemical response, a response to that other person, that can cause you lots of problems down the road. Some people get into this idea that the grass is greener down the road, or that somebody else is going to be better for them physically, or they struggle with constantly looking at someone else because they're not truly just sold out to this person that they're dating. So I highly recommend, again, my fifth point is to make sure that just from a physical chemical standpoint that you have a very strong attraction to that person, almost to the point to where you don't even want to look at anybody else, just physically. If that's not there, it's going to cause issues. Trust me, just like every other part of building your foundation that we talked about. Again, everybody has a different flavor, different taste. Everybody has different attractions, things that motivate them, or that cause them to think something is beautiful or pretty or whatever. Sometimes it's a combination of physical appearance and their personality or whatever other things that make that person a great person. So it's not always just looks, but whatever it is about the person, if you don't have a very strong response to them from a physiological standpoint, that's going to be problematic for you in your relationship. So those are the 5 primary things to look for as far as finding your person, on what you should be doing and the groundwork that you need to lay, the foundation that you need to have set in place when being with that person. I also want to talk about red flags, pitfalls, things to really look for whenever you're also trying to find your person, things that you don't want in a person. Again, in my relationship, I was guilty of this myself and not doing some of the homework and not seeing red flags, and also that person not seeing red flags about me, because I had mine too. I was only 20, 21 years old, didn't really know myself all that well, thought I did, a very big ego about myself. I was smart and good looking and all these things, and young and energetic, and had all these dreams and goals. But guys, I had a lot of dysfunction in my childhood. I'd never worked any of that out. Didn't really understand a lot of the ways that I was, or why I was the way I was in many different ways. And I never worked on myself and worked through some of those things. And trust me when I say, over the course of a 22-year marriage, those things came up in our marriage too and were problematic for my partner or my former partner. But there were things on her end of it as well that were very problematic that eventually rooted themselves out, and that ended up causing us major problems later on in our marriage. So red flags, things you need to look for. Some of them are things like somebody who has abandonment problems. They were really hurt badly by a parent or by an ex or multiple previous relationships or whatever it is. People that are afraid of you leaving them and don't trust you almost from the get-go just because of things that have happened. And where this really becomes a problem is if you do even one little thing to give them trust issues or doubts about you, because we're all human, nobody's perfect, we've all made mistakes. In the course of a long relationship, you at some point are going to say something or do something that's going to irritate or anger that partner, or you're going to do something or say something that's going to give them possible doubts or whatever about your fidelity, your faithfulness, right? Or whatever it might be. So if you're with somebody that has major abandonment issues, insecurities, things like that, and they haven't worked out those issues before in their past, it's going to come up in your relationship where they doubt you or they don't trust you. Even for the smallest things that happen, you could say something that gives them an impression because of what happened before to them that makes them think, oh my gosh, here I go again, I'm going to get hurt. And so people's natural defense mechanism is to fight back or defend or put up a strong wall of defense because they're afraid. It's a fear thing. So if you're dating somebody that has major insecurities, major red flags right there, guys, somebody who constantly needs reassurance, somebody who's always asking you if you love them, if you want to be with them, how do you feel today? Do you still want me? Am I pretty enough? Am I good enough? Am I handsome enough? Whatever it might be, when you start to see that a lot, especially early on, guys, that person needs work. They need work to do. And it's going to cause you a lot of problems. Every relationship needs and requires reassurance. You should be willing to give your partner the reassurance they need and want, but they shouldn't be asking for it all the time. They shouldn't be telling you or asking you to give them reassurance because that reveals a major insecurity on their behalf, okay? It should be a natural thing that you do because you simply love that partner. You don't want them to have trust issues or to worry about what you're doing all the time, and you have to go through the work yourself of making sure that you're taking proactive steps to not give them reasons to doubt you and to be insecure. But again, everybody's not perfect, And if there's even little things here or there along your marriage that maybe gives them some irrational reason to doubt you, if they have major insecurities, that's going to blow up in your face, okay? Those are some big ones right there for red flags. Somebody who has really bad spending habits, somebody who's going into a lot of debt, has a lack of control on how they spend their money, or going into credit card debt, or buying vehicles and having large payments, or whatever it might be, that's a major red flag. If you're going to truly invest into your future, you should be in a positive net income, positive cash flow. You should not be going into lots of debts. That is a very bad habit for people to get involved in. And unless you want to be trapped the rest of your life, that's something to also look for in a relationship. Other red flags might be things like a person that has a lack of control on their language, somebody who has a lower vocabulary or doesn't know how to control how they speak, somebody who is using words all the time that are very destructive or hurtful, things like that, somebody who cuts you down. Another red flag is manipulation. Somebody who uses like their religion, if they have one, or somebody who uses things like past issues they've had before against you, their problems they bring into your relationship because they haven't worked all those through. And so they are constantly saying, well, if you do this, then I'll love you. If you do this, then I'll do this. Somebody who gives you ultimatums, things like that. Very manipulative behavior. Or you wouldn't do that because of this, right? Somebody who's always trying to control how you act and control what you think or say, or to make you feel like, which is sort of narcissism, that you are causing a problem because of their insecurity, okay? Very narcissistic tendency for people to have. So somebody who manipulates, who is telling you have to do or say or think something in order for them to feel better, causes you to then become codependent, where you feel like, oh, I've got to do this for this person so they don't fear, so they don't mistrust me, so they don't stop loving me. And if you get to that point where you feel like you have to be different, you have to be a certain kind of person in order to earn that person's love, you become codependent on them. And that is a very unhealthy behavior and a very unhealthy mindset to be in. So just a bunch of red flags right there, guys. And there's way more, but those are some of the top major things to look for in your relationship when you're trying to find your person. Don't rush it. Make sure that finances and things like raising a family and last but not least, and actually this is number one, to be quite honest, this is the most important thing, and this goes into being equally yoked and things like that, but I can't leave this video without mentioning this. You absolutely need to make sure that the person you're going to be with has a very similar moral compass as you, a faith-based value system, okay? An atheist and a Christian are not going to usually work, or if they do, they're going to battle and have conflict all along the way. Your faith value system really determines the kinds of choices you're going to make in your life and truly does impact the kind of person you're going to be. How you're going to go out and have fun, what kinds of things you're going to want to do, whether or not you drink or smoke, whether or not you want to discipline your kids a certain way, whatever it might be, how you're going to treat church or things like prayer, whether that's a part of your life or not. If those things are not critically aligned in your life, or I shouldn't say critically, if those things are not totally aligned in your life, you're going to have major, major problems. Your faith value system, guys, should be very aligned. And not also what you believe necessarily, and it doesn't have to be exactly the same. Everybody has differences, just like any church or any organization. People differ all the time and still make it work and get along because they're rowing with the same motion, they're going the same direction. They, at the core, have the same mission statement, value statement, beliefs, and all these things about the major parts of their life. But it's not just what you believe or your faith value system that's important, but how rooted you are in that. Same with my last relationship. In my marriage, when I met my ex-wife 22 years ago, I had been a Christian since I was 5 years old, had read scripture my whole life, had studied philosophy and all these different things, and that was a big part of who I was. I loved things like logic and debate and studying literature and all these other things. And from the biblical standpoint, I was very rooted in my Christian faith. When I met my ex-wife, she was quite a bit older than me. And that's also another thing to look for when you're looking for somebody's age compatibility. That can also cause problems depending on whether you're a male, female, or other factors. So that's a whole other topic. But she was 28, I was 21 when we got married. But she had just become a Christian about a year and a half or so before I met her. And so while she believed in sort of what I believed from a major standpoint in God and that, her faith value system was not nearly as rooted as mine was. And so like later on in life, when I was struggling or had issues that came up, I would typically turn to my faith and things like that for, redemption and for healing and things like that. And not that she didn't, because she did at times, but it just wasn't as impactful to her. And she typically looked for more practical outlets for her healing and her solution and her issues. Or she many times would turn to me for her healing. Did I make her feel good enough? Did I give her enough love and attention? Did I give her enough respect and all these things that she needed? When really, from my perspective, only God can truly give you all of those things to make you whole. And if you have that with your Creator, you don't need to find that in your partner. Your partner should be a blessing to you and should be rowing in the same direction as you and should be your helpmate and your support system and all those things. But that person cannot define and give you your value. If you're finding your value in your other person and you're finding your self-esteem in your other person and you're not rooted in the same moral compass as them, you're going to look for different avenues to fix your problems. And I didn't always look to God. Again, part of my struggle was being with somebody who didn't have a similar value system. And that struggle over time took its toll on me as well as her. And so I ended up going less and less and less towards my value system, my core root, which was God. And she, because of that failure of leadership on my part, basically put that off to the side because I didn't make it as important over time because I knew it wasn't really that big of a deal for her. And she also then didn't make it a big factor for her. And in the end, if your faith value system is your core, but you've turned away from that, that's destructive. Again, I'm a Christian, so I'm not dealing with two atheists or something like that or whatever that is. Good luck on finding a value system there that matches because that typically changes day to day on how you feel. The Bible talks about leading your heart. If you lead yourself, then your heart will follow. Whereas people that are typically like atheists or just believe in doing whatever they want to do in life, it's a more selfish attitude where it's how you feel. Follow your heart is what they say. And the heart is feeble, guys. It changes every single day. One day you're feeling one thing, the next day you're feeling this thing. And if you follow your heart all the time, it's chaos. It's total chaos. And so unless you have a very strong rooted foundation to your core as like an atheist or something, which you've just pretty much made that up on your own, and hopefully that doesn't change over time. Unless you have a core value system like that, and you maintain it and sustain it, it's going to lead to many problems. So again, number one on the list really is, again, a very grounded and similar faith value system, and also a deeply rooted one. If you're rowing at a different speed in your faith, that can be problematic as well. So my advice to you would be try to find somebody who's in a similar place as you with their faith and their value system and who is as rooted as you. And if you're a Christian or a newer Christian, I would advise you very strongly to spend quite a bit of time developing that faith and being consistent with your faith and really doing the homework there and the work with your Creator before you dive in deeply with somebody else who's also having a similar value system as you, who's also a Christian. I would try the best that I can to find somebody who's either doing the work with you there, with your faith, and really making that a big part of your life together before jumping into a relationship. So those are my words of advice. Guys, again, this is Journeys with Joseph. I am an efficient. If you know somebody who is getting married or wants to get married or is looking for some kind of help in that regard, I have a really good team, TimmyGibson.com. Timmy is one of my co-efficient. He's basically he started the whole thing for this team, and he's incredible. His whole team is great, and I would recommend highly that if you're looking for wedding support, have wedding needs or whatever, or have other needs, photography or whatever it might be, contact us at TimmyGibson.com or .com. Sorry, you can find us on Facebook as well, or just send me a message. So again, Journeys with Joseph, guys. Thank you for joining me. How to find your person or finding your person. Hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something from this video, just a little bit. Don't fall into the traps and into the pitfalls of rushing and making the mistakes of just falling in love and making it all about intimacy and physical sex and things like that. It is going to cause you problems. Trust me, guys. Sometimes it's very hard when you're single to not have that companionship when you know it's what you want. I know it's what I want, but you need to set yourself up for success. You need to make sure you've worked on yourself as a single person, going through that time of your singleness, and you've actually made sure that you have really set a strong foundation for who you are, what you want, and that you're aligned with God, first of all, if you're a Christian, and I am, and also that you're aligned with that other person fully before giving your heart and yourself to that person all the way. All right, guys, thanks. I've enjoyed it. Hope you have too. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.